following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
This is the Bulldozer, Matt Tremont, the most decorated, retired deathmatch wrestler of all time. And you are listening to the one and only Insider's Edge Wrestling Podcast.
Hi, everybody. This is former WWE superstar Al Snow.
Regional Bennett.
T.W. Anderson.
Sean Oliver.
My name is Eugene.
And you are watching the Insider's Edge Podcast.
Now get on the
train.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia Infirri. Great to be with you here tonight, and it's exciting for me to be interviewing here tonight because I'm finally getting in there and speaking to some of these CZW guys. This is the first time I'm going to get the chance to talk to somebody that certainly is a legend in the sport of deathmatch style pro wrestling. He has the distinction of being the only wrestler to win all the major American deathmatch tournaments. I'm talking about Tournament of Death, Masters of Pain, and the King of the Deathmatch. And he won that twice. He's often referred to as the Grand Slam champion of deathmatch, former GCW and CZW World Heavyweight Champion, the Bulldozer, Matt Tremont. How you going, my friend?
I'm good, brother. Thank you for having me.
No worries, bro. Real excited to chat to you here today. And the first question, as usual, Matt, on the show is, how did you become a wrestling fan when you were a young man?
Oh, man, probably about 9 or 10 years old is when I started watching wrestling and, typical WWF, WCW, ECW in the height of the Monday Night Wars, and just was engulfed in it as a child. And then later in my teenage years would come across independent wrestling, deathmatch wrestling, and I knew from about 13, 14 years old, this was all I wanted to do and all I was into.
Right, cool, bro. Yeah, I mean, I guess you must have really found ECW to be a company that tickled your fancy, I suppose you could say. As time wears on as a wrestling fan, at what point do you decide, I guess, with your friends to maybe start doing a bit of backyard wrestling with a promotion that you called EZW?
Mainly, I mean, most of the roster consisted of basically just me and my younger brother at times, because we didn't have not too many wrestling fans I knew at the time. We later would find a few more over the years, but did the backyard wrestling, just like everybody for quite a number of years as a teenager. And then I would get to the point where I'm like, this is fun, but I want to do this for real and make a go at it. And left the backyard and hopped on the other side of the proverbial guardrail.
Cool, bro. So did you take that backyard group and turn it into a pro group? Is that kind of how the story went? Yeah, my introduction into the business was in 2006, and going into 2007, promoted an event in January of 2007 under the backyard label EZW. Ran at a karate dojo in Mays Landing, New Jersey, and the show had backyarders on it, pro guys on it, and something you aren't supposed to do. I didn't know the do's and the don'ts at the time. And, but if there was a positive out of it, it was, the dojo probably had about 100 people. We filled the place, and it was that show where I would meet my later trainer, primetime Amy Lee, that night, and would then start to train with her from that point on. And, man, rest is history after that. Cool, bro. So training with Amy, could you tell me what's the biggest thing that you took away from that, and what would be like a lesson that you learned from her that you kept with you?
I think, man, just respect, discipline, structure, just no nonsense. I had at the time I was 17, and I had an eyebrow piercing in, and I had a couple other. I had a ear piercing in, and as soon as I got in the ring, she said, "Take them out." And from that day on, I never put them back in. And she just no nonsense. She was trained by Dick Murdoch, so that just
Right.
goes to tell you just right there. So she's one of the toughest ladies in the world. She's my wrestling mother, and just instilled a lot of good and good morals and respect in me.
That's cool, bro. So what was it about? I mean, wanting to focus a lot of your career on the hardcore style, and it's not even just hardcore, it's to push the envelope into that ultra violence, you know what I mean? What was it about that really drew you in?
Man, I just think overall was just I've always been enamored with the story and characters, and the over the top. I'm not a violent person at all. Don't like watching horror movies, don't like blood and violence, but I just something about hardcore wrestling and the genre itself that I just enjoyed. And it was just a different genre, a different art, and a different canvas to paint. And sometimes mine was a little bloodier than others.
So early on in your career, you end up joining Combat Zone Wrestling. I just want to know how that opportunity came about, and obviously your first outing on the 11th of June 2011 at Prelude to Violence 2 at the Asylum Arena in Philly for a match against Piggy Sanchez.
My story is universally sound and known because of one man, and that is Danny Havoc. He's a good friend of mine, a better part of 10 years. And, everything in life happens for a reason, and one thing always happens into the next. And I would meet a friend that was a friend of a CZW referee, and that would give me an opportunity at a smaller promotion in New Jersey. That would then lead to Carnage Cup in Alabama, where I wrestled Danny Havoc for the first time in my first death match, professionally. And because of that match going the way it did, and Danny enjoying what I did, saw something in me as a young upstart in the deathmatch world, though at that point in time was 3-4 years in the business already, but I was a nobody. I had no name value, and became friends, took a liking to me, took me under his wing, him, Devin Moore, that whole crew, and would put me in contact with DJ Hyde. And in, I think, February 2011 was when I first went backstage at the ECW arena. Instead of buying a ticket and walking through the front door, I was walking around back and coming through the back door. Met DJ Hyde, got acclimated with the roster, and I was an outside guy coming in. They were like, "Who the hell is this kid that just literally came out of nowhere?" Meanwhile, there were guys there still waiting to get an opportunity that trained there. And, as the years go by, I find out I was not too fond of when I first came in because, they're like, who the hell is this kid? But because of Danny Havoc and a few others, my dream job was CZW, and he, built that bridge for me to get in there.
Right. Yeah. If you're coming in and you find out later down the line that this is how some of the guys were feeling. Talk about having to prove yourself right out of the gate there, especially on the 25th of June, 2011, working with Necro Butcher in a water jugs and bats match, and MonetMaaate in a fucking, I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Kenzans or Kenzans?
Yes. Kenzans, yes.
Kenzans and whips and anything else we can fucking find match. Talk about having to prove yourself out of the gate. But are you crazy? This Kenzan thing is some crazy shit, bro.
It's not pleasant. I've been fortunate my entire career, and when I look back on it, very thankful because things were set into place, and I had the support of the fan base since day one. I literally hopped the guardrail from the very corner I sat on at the ECW arena, when I debuted and beating Pinky Sanchez. And then 2 weeks later, I'm in Tournament of Death, defeating Necro Butcher and then facing MonetMaatte. So, right off the bat, was doing good for myself.
Absolutely, bro. How was it trying to get one of those Kenzans pulled out of your head?
It sucked.
I can imagine, bro. So here's a big one. It's the 21st of July 2012, IWA East Coast Masters of Pain. You win the tournament after working with Devon Moore, Danny Havoc, and MonetMaatte. So this is a pretty big moment early on in the career. You win your first big tournament. I want to ask, does a deathmatch tournament day, does that feel different to you than a regular show? When you wake up that morning and you know that you're about to do this, do you kind of feel like atmosphere is in the air and history is about to be made?
Especially for that first one, yeah, that was. I remember getting the phone call from the promoter. I was living in Philly at the time and was sitting in the staircase when I got the cell phone call from the Mike Tawney, the promoter at the time for IW East Coast, and said, you're going to go over and win out Masters the Pain, and the quality of guys that I was able to work with, to go Devon Moore, Danny Havoc, and MonetMaatte in 3 rounds. If it doesn't go well, that's on me. And that was a brutal tournament, a violent tournament, and West Virginia's kind of always been a home away from home. So to Masters of Pain to be my first one was very cool.
That's cool, bro. I want to bring this to 2012, feuding with DJ Hyde. I guess this is kind of your first story-driven angle in wrestling. Would I be correct?
Yeah, for a major promotion. Yeah, when I worked smaller promotions before I got to CZW, I was in, I had a couple short-term programs. I had a long-term program with veterans, so that definitely helped me. But without this angle at CZW with DJ Hyde in the beginning of, my time at the Combat Zone, who knows how my career would have went? Who knows how my time in CZW would have went? It was an angle that submitted me in the weavings of the Combat Zone linen that made me a made man in front of the eyes of the fans, and I could do no wrong because they know was willing to put my body on the line. I paid respect to the old days and the old guys, and all I was doing was trying to continue that lineage that they started.
Absolutely, bro. That's great. And I will get to a little bit more about this DJ Hyde feud in a minute, but I wanted to take a quick sidebar and ask you what it was like having the opportunity to team with New Jack.
New Jack's the best. Me and Devon Moore, we're his favorite white boys. Jack's he's a bad man, and you don't want to cross New Jack, but I can say I've lived and survived the original gangster.
Yeah, I had the chance to interview him a few months back, and he was great fun on the show. Okay, here it is, the one I want to ask about. It's the 8th of December 2012, Cage of Death 14, winning with a Death Valley driver off the top of the cage through 3 levels of panes of glass and a stage set up on the outside. Looked like it was, you had to be precise and perfect with this, otherwise something real bad could happen. But tell me a little bit about that match. I mean, geez, it was pretty wild, but that final moment hitting that move, you got to be precise, bro.
I was so nervous. I was sick to my stomach, pacing back and forth before I went out the curtain in the skate zone. At that point in time, aside from the Cage of Death the previous year at the arena in Philly, this was the biggest crowd I worked in front of so far. Skate zone was packed. This was a 1.5+ plus, build, program, blow off, payoff, whatever you want to call it. Match went, as good as it damn did, and very proud of that match. Proud of the story that we told. A brutal, physically brutal match. and that last bump will be synonymous with my, myself till, they bury me 6 feet under. And, we were up on top of that cage, and we were only standing on a piece of board that was the shape of a triangle, and not very much room at all. And by the time I hooked him for the DVD, I was about to go, and DJ, I'll credit him this, said, take one more step. And I did, and we hit it perfect. And I look back on it. If I didn't listen and not take that extra step, probably could have been impaled on one of those boards that was holding the panes of glass. So it was pretty crazy. It was a hell of a bump. And I'd do it 10 times again.
Cool, bro. Would you say this was the most dangerous spot you've ever done?
At that point in time, yes.
Okay, so what would you consider the most dangerous spot that you've ever been a part of?
I don't know if I can pick one. I mean, that's one. The following year, I was in the cage of death again, and I got kicked off the cage by Lucky and Sick Nick Mondo, and it took the same bump. Not the same bump, but I just took a beel off the top of the cage.
Right.
There was no box with panes of glass. I went through a pane, a board, and I hit the floor and bounced so hard off the floor that I couldn't feel my legs, and they had to drag me to the back. So that was pretty wild. A Michinuko driver off the top of a tractor trailer at IWA Deep South.
Yeah.
I've fallen off so many scaffolds, I've lost count. I was a fan of big bumps growing up, and I wanted to take my fair share, and I filled up my big bump card pretty quick.
I can imagine, bro. So speaking of dangerous spots, was there ever a spot that somebody had in mind, an idea that it was so dangerous that you turned down, or maybe an opponent turned down an idea of a spot that you had? Do you have any stories about that?
I mean, I'd say I don't think so. Everything that was ever presented to me, I did on my own volition, and I did it, and I'm alive to talk about it, thankfully.
So, taking all these bumps obviously has to do a little bit of damage. What's the worst injury you've ever had in your wrestling career?
Man, knock on wood, in my 15 years as an in-ring performer, I never broken a bone.
Unbelievable.
I have a herniated disc in my back. I have, countless scars, as you can tell, on my forehead. So just a lot of trips to the hospital for stitches to patch me back up like a goddamn voodoo doll. But yeah, never broken a bone, knock on wood.
Cool, bro. That's amazing. How, these cage of death matches and these death match tournaments, how do you recover after something like this? Do you need like a week or so to get yourself back together? Do you need some hard liquor after the show? What does Matt Tremont do to just recover from this craziness?
Man, after my early tournaments, physically, by the end of the night, once the adrenaline wears off, you're just, physically and mentally drained. Recovery time, day or two, you heal up depending on what your schedule is, and when's the next match. Never been a drinker in my life, so never numbed the pain with any of that. I just kind of just dealt with it and did my thing.
Wow. That's great stuff, bro. 28th of June 2014, King of the Death Match in IWA Mid-South. There is a no rope, barbed wire, panes of glass, barbed wire board, casket, and fans bring the weapons match. Matt Tremont defeats Josh Crane. And you obviously won the tournament, and you went back-to-back in 2015. Please tell me how it felt to win this, notorious tournament.
The King of the Death Matches is synonymous with deathmatch wrestling. It was the first one to my knowledge in the US, many, many years ago in the late 90s, 97 or 99, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so, watching King of the Deaths growing up and being able to, every King of the Death matches I was ever in, I went to the finals. My first one was with me, Simon Says, Drake Younger, and Devin Moore. And then King of the Death matches. It took a break for a couple years, and the next one was in 2014. And myself and a young Josh Crane, and I remember we had a hell of a final. The following year, me and Murdoch, a hell of a final. Still the only person today, to my knowledge, that won back to back. I'm not sure if anybody else did after that.
Yeah.
And went to 3 finals in a row. So just had a lot of quality matches and death matches and a lot of tournament memorable moments at IWA Mid-South.
Cool, bro. Look, I'm just going from highlight to highlight here. I feel like it's important to do all these back to back in a way. 13th of June 2015. It's the big one, CZW Tournament of Death 14. Yourself, Josh Crane, Danny Havoc, Connor Claxton. You work with those guys that day. You beat Connor in the final, and you become the first Grand Slam champ of Deathmatch. In just a few short years, you have become, an ultra-violent legend.
It's still crazy to hear those things, humbling to hear those things, even being done in the ring. I look back on that TOD first round match I liked against Josh Crane. Second round, I never had a bad match with Danny Havoc. We always beat the hell out of each other. That's what usually happens when you're good friends. And the finals, I don't know, I may have told the story before, but I hated the finals with Connor. It wasn't his or I fault. Just wasn't there. And there was no gimmicks or anything left. We had nothing to use. They set up these 2 side walls, and they were just too high. I thought they were going to be a lot lower. So by the time I got out there, and we literally only had one light tube log cabin to use, we were working up a uphill battle. But at the end, I was happy. I think the fans were happy. They wanted me to get that. And that meant a lot to me. So TOD was the big one because that's the company I always grew up with, and got that under my belt.
That's great, bro. Yep, absolutely. And again, another highlight. It's not even a month later. It's just under a month later. The 11th of July, 2015 at CZW New Heights against Black G's. You win your first CZW World Heavyweight Championship. I watched this a few weeks ago, and I got goosebumps at the end when you won the World Heavyweight Championship. This must have been just such a great moment for you.
People forget, before I wrestled Black G's, I wrestled Pepper Parks, now in AEW, Butcher and the Blade tag team. And we had a street fight. We had a hell of a fucking match. It was it's one of my favorite matches I ever had in my career. And then set up the promo post match to set up a title match. I worked with Black G's probably 3 or 4 times earlier in the year. And then when, made it happen. And, 1, 2, 3, held the belt that I always wanted to hold for the company I always wanted to be in. And, still top 3 greatest, best accomplishments and moments and feelings I ever had.
Cool, bro. Yeah, it was an iconic moment for you. And, August 5, 2017, we just things just keep on happening as the years roll along. No ropes, barbed wire exploding baseball bat match against, obviously the godfather of deathmatch wrestling at Sushi Onita. Please tell me a little bit about that and how it felt going into working with a legend like him.
Crazy. Yeah, still to this day doesn't seem real. It all seems like a big dream. And, that took, it was a lot of work to make that happen. Started the Japan is Scared campaign to go to Japan. If at that point in time, I accomplished a lot, but my biggest dream, biggest goal was always to make it to Japan, and that didn't happen yet. And I asked a veteran in this business, what can I do to, get the attention of them and, get the ball rolling. And he said, just, start calling people out. And if I'm I looked at it. If I'm going to call anybody out, I'm going to go for the big dog, and I'm going to go for the legend, the god himself, Onita. And over the process of months and months and months, and for him to finally reach out and want to do business, and to make that happen when ECW couldn't make it happen and XPW couldn't make it happen. Do I wish the explosions were different? Of course, but people in charge, didn't do their job. That was out of my hands. I just had to show up and wrestle, and I did after being in the hospital for almost 2 weeks, and I was on my deathbed. But I would have I signed myself out, and I wasn't missing that match for anything. Once in a lifetime it was, and still to this day I can say I talked to Onita, and here and there, and wishes me happy birthday. So all in all, pretty cool, and worked out all right.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's great stuff, man. So again, I wanted to bring this one up because I found this to be so interesting. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. It's the 25th of October 2019 at a show called ICW Return to the Concrete Jungle. Yourself and Nick Gage wrestle against the Powers of Pain, Barbarian and Warlord. This is a tag team match that I never thought would have ever been booked, but it happened. Do you have a story of this experience?
Over my career, I definitely had matches where I'm like, is this real? Is this happening? And and sometimes they're the most fun. And anytime I would work for said promotion would be always a different kind of matchup I wouldn't have elsewhere. And when this one was presented to me, I was like, never in a million years would I thought I'd be wrestling the Powers of Pain. My first WWF VHS was WrestleMania 5 from Atlantic City, where I grew up, and Powers of Pain are on that goddamn tape, and I wrestled them years later. So very nice guys, gentlemen, veterans of the business. I had a lot of fun. Another thing under the belt, I said I wrestled the Powers of Pain. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Good notch to have on the belt. So you end up losing the CZW World Heavyweight Championship to Joe Gacy. And from there, that comes, the reign comes to an end. But, tell me a little bit about, at this point in time, late 2019, how are you feeling about your career at that point? And, what point were you starting to think I gotta start thinking about winding this thing down?
There was, I was very proud of my CZW run, 399 days, if I remember right. I looked at myself when I was champion, like I was the NWA world champion, and I defended the title everywhere, represented the promotion well, and just acted like a damn professional, as you should. There's a few times over my career, I slowed down. I wound up opening a retail store, started my own promotion, and had things going on because I knew I could, use my name value I build up with the rapport with my peers and the fans in the business, and jump into other different avenues to create some revenue, not with me just not killing my body. And that would take some time away from, in-ring stuff. But for a long time, I juggled so much at once, and did it, with no problem, because I've never looked at any of this as work. I'm just doing something I truly enjoy to do, whether it was in-ring wrestling, promoting wrestling, booking wrestling, running a wrestling collectible store. I just had my hand in a lot of different hats. And retirement never crossed my mind until late, or fall 2020, last year. Not even in 2019 did I even fathom retiring.
All right. So you ended up working in Japan, is that correct?
Yes, twice.
Excellent. So being over there and working, I want to know if you could just tell of the difference between American and Japanese deathmatch wrestling, and also how the fans react to a deathmatch.
There's a great deal of respect in Japan. They look at it as a legitimate sport, and that's because of the passion and in the fighters and the time and effort that they put in to hone their craft and so much more. But just the respect for the business overall and how they conduct business and how everything is portrayed. And it's just respect goes a long way in the business. And in Japan, you know, it's just as popular as baseball over there. And so the top two things are baseball and wrestling. And you know, especially the deathmatch wrestling, you know, seeing these guys put their body on the line, it's an even greater respect that they have for these guys. And both times I went to Japan on both tours, when I always came home, I just wished that America was like Japan, and just the respect is there. Everything is better there, in my opinion. The business is better. They you know treat each other like, you know, human beings, and you know, not people that just are, you know, making other people money. And you know, just a great respect for people in Japan. That my greatest times in this business were my both tours over there. My first, you know, working with Onita, and then the second time was with the tour I did with GCW, and I wrestled in Kurgan Hall for Freedoms and BJW. You know, if I would have died, if I died the next day when I got off the plane from Japan, I would have died with a smile on my face, as I said, and because that was why I did all this. And I can stare at my Ribera jacket that hangs on my wall in front of me, very, you know, proudly, because that's all I wanted, and I earned it. And when you earn it and do things the right way, nobody can take nothing away from you.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's like one of those. It was one of those last, you know, big bucket list things. As aside from, you know, championships and deathmatch tournament victories and all that, working in Japan obviously meant a lot to you. So happy to hear that you had that experience and you look back on it fondly. Another moment, I suppose you must look back on fondly, 30th of October 2020 at H2O, the last extravaganza weekend in Williamstown, New Jersey. No rope barbed wire, 200 light tubes death match. Ricky Shane Page defeats you in 21 minutes, 36 seconds. Why this show? Why is Ricky Shane Page the right guy for the last match? And please tell me, you know, how it felt once it was over and how you kind of wound down after the match and, you know, came to terms with the fact that you are now no longer going to be an active wrestler.
You know, it's been almost 6 months now. I've been retired on Mischief Night of last year, and I didn't even start thinking about retirement until late August.
All right.
That didn't even cross my mind. A lot of reasoning went into that decision. And on September 6th, in the evening time, came to that decision, and I would announce it the next day on social media. I didn't talk to my wife because I knew she would not be happy. And I knew once I put it out there to the world, there was no taking it back.
Yeah.
And that's how she found out when she read on Facebook. And, you know, I was content with my decision, comfortable with my decision. And I knew it was, you know, about to start the next chapter of life. You know, that whole weekend was to pay tribute to my friend that passed, to all of our friends that passed. Danny Havoc was close to many of us and meant so much for so many different reasons to so many different people. And, you know, I knew this was the show to say goodbye on, as we say goodbye to my friend. And I wanted to wrestle Ricky because during the pandemic early on, I watched our finals that we had in Tournament of Death years ago. And, you know, I'm very fond of that match. I'm very proud of that match. That entire TOD, my body of work was, I think, some of my best. And I wanted to work with Ricky once more. And just the personal connection that he had with Danny Havoc and that I had with Danny Havoc. If it wasn't for Danny Havoc, who knows where either of our careers would have went. and art imitates life many times. And I like to blend both worlds and tell stories. And on my way out in those last 2 months, in those 12, 13 matches that I had, I thought I had some of my best matches that I ever had. And I told my greatest story that I could ever tell on my last match. It went perfect. I wouldn't change a damn thing. And it couldn't have went any better. And, just a perspective on it as well, that I tell now my students that I teach every week. In a business and in a day and age of the business where a lot of attention is on the moves in the ring and hitting those moves in the ring. I hit one move in my last match. I hit a Samoan drop at some point and an act of desperation after just selling. And it won an IWTV Match of the Year award, which, to me, that stuff I appreciate in the world of the work. Outside of it, to me that, I don't walk around thinking I'm the bulldozer, it's not real.
Yeah.
In that world, it's greatly appreciated to be recognized for that. And I use it as an example in teaching my students. It's not always all about the moves. And I hit one move. That move was selling. That move was story. That move was emotion. And, one day the not the truth, but for lack of a better word, but the entire true story will come out, because in my retirement speech post match, I said I didn't want to retire, but I have to, and that story will be told, in years to come.
Fair enough, bro. But I'm happy to hear that you're really proud of how you exited pro wrestling as an active competitor. It's always good to know that somebody doesn't regret the way that they went out and that it ended on a perfect note. So now looking back on your career, is there somebody that you would have liked to have worked an angle or a death match with?
As far as deathmatch guys I've wrestled, I was lucky enough. I filled a void at a time where it needed to be filled. And, I wrestled everybody I ever wanted to wrestle in the genre. If there was anybody I wanted to work, but didn't have the opportunity to, it'd be some like old school guys like Jerry Lawler or Tommy Rich, or Doug and Eddie Gilbert, guys like that. But I was fortunate enough to work pretty much everybody I ever wanted to work with.
Awesome, bro. So I wanted to ask if you have any stories of like young guys, maybe some delusional people that trying to get into CZW or IWA or anywhere that has deathmatch style wrestling, and then when it came time to do it, they realized that they were out of their depth. Do you have any like kind of stories about that? I mean, aside from David Arquette, but anyone else that you know of that freaked out a little?
Never with myself did I have a match where it went on and you realize the person shouldn't be in there doing what they're doing. I don't have any recollection of any moments like that. I've had a couple matches where I had to light somebody up to calm them down because they were a little too excited because they were in a match with a death match guy.
Yeah,
because they think they can't work, but I would run circles around them. Would hear things, per se over time, but a lot of those things where you'd hear and see and happen with other guys never happened with me because I never went in there with the intention of getting my shit in, as they say, and doing everything under the sun. Like I said, I hit one move on my way out and I was happy with that. I just wanted to tell good stories, and I, didn't have any trouble with anybody over the years, and I did my thing.
Cool, bro. Yeah, no, that's great. So I wanted to ask a couple of random questions. One is, who is a wrestler or a performer in professional wrestling that you are a fan of that might surprise other people? Like, would there ever be a sentence where somebody said, "Oh yeah, Matt Tremont is a huge fan of the model Rick Martel"?
That's a fantastic question. I'm gonna have to think for a second. Pardon me for a second. Let me think. Trying to somebody that was who's out of pocket. Man, I don't know if this could be, but I love Bull Nakano and Japanese women's wrestling, and Bull Nakano is my favorite of all time. Beautiful woman.
Yeah, she's awesome, man. Big fan of hers. Okay, I need your opinion on this because it happened a few weeks ago, but I gotta ask, a deathmatch legend, what they thought of AEW's attempt at an exploding barbed wire deathmatch.
I thought the match and the story was fantastic between Omega and Moxley. And the earlier presentation of the explosions for not having and being what Onita and having the technology to do the real shit and the real explosions. The earlier in the match explosions, they weren't bad at all. I thought they were presentable. But in the wrestling business, everyone, all they remember is the finish. And the time bomb gimmick at the end, obviously the presentation of it wasn't, probably what they were looking for. And Kingston and Moxley, still sticking to what the story they were telling and, dedicating themselves to it. I applaud that and respect that. At the end of the day, did they wish it was probably bigger? I would think and hope so. I think they did their best. And I guess I'll put it like this: when Onita was here for CZW, and post match he goes, "Chape."
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about Hardcore Hustle organization. This is your baby now. This is what you're doing. Please let everyone out there know what it's all about, and how it came to be, and what your hopes are for the future of the company.
2016, I launched the promotion. Myself and Danny Havoc were very hands-on with the creative and all that good jargon, and launched H2O because I was involved with other promotions, but at the end of the day, it wasn't my vision, or as you said, my baby. And that's why I really wanted to do it. Started it just to have fun with my friends, and my friends just happen to be very talented people. And H2O has been running since June of 2016. We're coming up on our 5-year anniversary show this June. And the same effort that I put into my own career, now that being retired, I have the time to put that same time and effort into the day-to-day logistics of running the promotion as a business, as a wrestling product, booking, running the school, talent development, all that stuff. 24/7, I wake up, it's H2O. When I go to bed, it's H2O. What they say, when you break into the business, that you want to get out of your bubble and travel and learn. After all these years, I just want to be in my bubble and be left alone. I'm happy in my bubble. Sometimes my only human interaction during the week is when I see my students come through to the building and train, and I'm fine with that. I'm good. The same time and effort I put into my own career, I put into here. Those students, I have 53 students that have signed up over the course of little over 2 years the school's been open, and they're thriving right now, and they're doing things the right way, and they're earning everything that they get, and they're excelling in exceeding any expectation that's ever been thought of. And for the first time in the 5 years we've been running, we're really now starting to gain some traction. And one of the big reasons I retired was to put more time and effort into the company, and I have it now, and it's again, it's showing off. Seeing numbers go up, seeing views go up, business, money, all just every aspect of the company right now is in a growth period. Our product is right now the best it's ever been, while it's always been good and solid. Again, that extra time and effort and attention to detail into story. And I think that's what's honestly, that's the one thing that I think people are really noticing that we're doing, is that we scaled back the violence, and instead of more hardcore than deathmatch, but giving everything that we're doing purpose, and having perspective and making it mean something. I like story. I like characters. That's the wrestling that drove me to, emotionally invest. And now in this time and doing that, after 15 years, the only thing that I want to do is just continue to tell stories like I did in the ring. And now I can do that as a booker, as a promoter, and I live vicariously through my students and my main roster guys. The story that I write on a piece of paper, they bring to life in the product or in the middle of the ring. And right now, I would put our product up against anybody's. To me, H2O is the closest thing to ECW, I think, in my heart, where we truly are the land of the misfit toys. There's guys here that wouldn't ever get a shot elsewhere, but are thriving right now. Guys like Jimmy Chondo Lion, people laughed at a couple years ago, but is having some of the best matches of his career right now. Very proud of him. Does a lot of work behind the scenes as well. All those DVDs you see on Smart Mark, he's the one editing and producing. Everything is in house at H2O, except when IWTV comes to come to the building to stream us and go live, but they've become a part of the H2O family in the last 6 months. And getting that distribution on that platform has been huge for us, being on IWTV. And in the world of streaming and getting everything instantaneously and physical media dying, thank God there's IWTV, and I thank them every month that we that they're here and taking the time out of their busy day to give us that platform. Last month we had a show called Bad Luck, and I think it was our best top to bottom show that we've had. As a booker, best card I've booked in flow of a card so far. But then again, that's because of the people in the ring doing the work. I now accent them. If I can help translate and tell any stories, it's in a promo. But the guys in the ring are the ones doing the real work. And again, anything I've been able to do in the business for all these years as a wrestler, now as promoter and running H2Os, because we just did good, honest business. I have a great rapport with my peers, a great rapport with the fans. And it's because I've never bait and switched them, lied to them. Open and honest business goes a long way in a saturated business that is pro wrestling. But we are still riding in the COVID-19 pandemic era of wrestling. And while it has, obviously sucked, and people, have suffered by it, in wrestling, at least on the independent scene in the United States, there's only been a handful of companies running for X amount of time now, and it has been a blessing in disguise. This pandemic, for at least business wise for us, because there's only a few games in town running, and people that weren't giving us a chance a year ago were able to give us a chance. And I see that in the numbers, and it's very rewarding. It's very fulfilling. Now at this time, you see the growth after all the hard work that we've been putting in, not just myself, everybody behind the scenes, all the students. It is a very, this is the first platform I've had to speak on in some time, because just in the last couple of weeks, and I'm glad I get to open up about it, because it's fresh in my mind every day that the adage is thrown out there a lot that we're in wrestling and other places where they're a family and this and that, but they're not. It's all politics and BS elsewhere, but we really are a family here. The wife's helping. I'm doing my thing. My students are doing their thing. Everyone's helping each other. You got to be an unselfish person to work at H2O, and you got to be a good person. I don't give a hell if you're the most talented person in the business. If you're an asshole, you ain't working here. It's a tight knit locker room. It's a tight knit community, and we're all here to better each other, and it's really showing in the product. And as long as everybody is create an atmosphere so that everyone is in a working environment, that they're thriving and enjoying themselves and doing what they love to do, and it's going to show in the ring. And I think it really has resonated in the last couple months. If you haven't jumped on board yet, please, hop on the H2O train, and only because the quality of content and story we are going to tell you. There's another deathmatch guy. I wouldn't say, I don't want to, I hate to even, better, for lack of a better word, that came back on Halloween to this company and has been very influential in his time and effort that he's put in. And I could go on and on and on, but it's a special time right now. Everyone's being so creative in the company right now, the students, and I'm very open to input and ideas from everyone, and it's just flowing. And I love it in this building. I'm here every day till wee hours of the morning, promoting or building something in the arena or just sweeping. And I wouldn't change a thing. At 32 years old now, I have more perspective, and I'm seeing clearly more than ever in my entire life. And it's a blessing for me and it's like that because of the people that I've met in wrestling and what wrestling has given to me in a business that owes you nothing, has given me so much in return.
Awesome, bro. It's great to hear that you're so pumped up about how things are going with your company. And I like hearing that there's, success stories going on in the professional wrestling business, and can't wait to see where things go in the future for you and your company. So for people out there that have watched this interview, haven't given it an opportunity yet or given H2O a look, please tell them where they can find it and plug all the things that you need to plug and to help get the name out there.
H2O, Facebook, Twitter, social media, Instagram. We are on IWTV. Subscribe. It's $10 a month. You get everything on there. IndependentWrestling.tv. We are, and if our next big show, every show is our biggest show now. We're at that point in the company, which is awesome. And we're all having fun and enjoying it. April 17th, H2O Misery Business, live on IWTV at 8 p.m. That's all I need the world to do is tune in to that show. And what is planned to take place at this event, let's just say, even in being retired, I will still sacrifice myself for the betterment of H2O.
Awesome, bro. That's great. Okay, Matt, we're coming to this segment now, the final segment of the show. It's called 5-Second Frenzy. It's about 10 or 11 quick fire questions on things that you like in life. Few about wrestling, and it always begins with, who is your favorite wrestler?
Oh man, Kevin Sullivan.
Awesome. Favorite opponent over the years?
Oh, Danny Havoc.
The favorite match you've ever had?
Oh man, I would say Kevin Sullivan because he's fresh on my mind.
The favorite book you've ever read?
Ooh, just got done reading Jared King Lawler's book that came out years ago. So I'm not a big book reader, but that's the most relevant and recent one I've read.
Cool, bro. I've read that one too. Your favorite TV show?
Oh, Married with Children.
Great decision there. Great choice. Favorite film?
Oh, The Crow.
Nice. Favorite musical artist?
Stevie Nicks.
Didn't expect that one. That's awesome. Favorite food?
Pizza.
Yeah, we get pizza a lot on the show. Favorite place to eat on the road?
Sheets.
Nice. You said you're not much of a drinker, or you've never really been a drinker. So this is usually favorite alcoholic beverage, but what's just your favorite beverage in general?
Any kind of iced tea or fruit punch. I'll drink it.
Very nice. Second last one, Matt, the most naughtiest one of 5 Second Frenzy, your favorite female body part?
Legs.
Very nice. And the last one, Matt Tremont, is what is your favorite curse word?
Motherfucker.
Very good. Well, Matt, I just want to thank you so much for your time here tonight. Really appreciate it. And, I just hope that, I don't hope, because I know that you are very proud of everything you've accomplished in the wrestling business, and you're doing great things now. You're helping a lot of young guys get out there and fulfill their dreams. So I just wanted to say, from the most isolated city in the world, Perth, Western Australia, I appreciate what you're doing, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the platform to talk shop with you. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. And thank you, everyone out there, for watching here, the Insider's Edge podcast on the WZWA Network in conjunction with Blue Wire Hustle. I am your host with the most, Karlifornia Infirri, alongside Matt Tremont, and we will see you next time. Thank you.